All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. This is Jillian Buckholtz. I'm the Senior Programs Coordinator at AASHE, and I'll be facilitating this webinar with you today. Today's webinar is Everything You Need to Know About STARS 2.0, and it is hosted by AASHE. As many of you know, AASHE's mission is to empower higher education to lead the sustainability transformation. We provide a huge collection of online resources and networking tools, educational events such as this webinar, and an annual conference, which is coming up October 6th through 9th in Nashville, Tennessee. AASHE members include over 20% of the 4,000 colleges and universities in the US, as well as institutions in Canada, Mexico, and other countries. For more information about AASHE, please visit our website, www.aashe.org. Please note this webinar is being recorded, so if you experience technical difficulties or have to leave early, you and others can view the recording later on. Presentation materials will be posted to the AASHE website in the Events section under Webinars, with a video of the webinar a few days after the live broadcast. Everyone in the audience is on mute, so the only way to communicate with the panelists is by typing your questions or comments into the questions pane in the control panel on your screen. Feel free to type in questions or comments at any point during the webinar, and time permitting, these will be addressed after the presentations. Due to time and the influx of questions, we may not be able to answer every question that's submitted. If you feel your question's not addressed, please send an email to resources@aashe.org, and an AASHE staff person will get back to you. I want to start off this webinar by saying how excited we are at AASHE to share more detail about STARS 2.0 with our members and the general public. STARS 2.0 has really been in the works for the past 3 years, and it really feels great to be in a place where we can share this sort of detail with you since we've been working on it for so long. So with that, let's meet our presenters. Julian Dautremont-Smith is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Alfred State College. He co-founded AASHE and served as its Associate Director for 5 years, and Julian is the current chair of the STARS Steering Committee. Chris Pelton, the Programs Coordinator at AASHE, supports AASHE programs through the content and technical development of STARS. Ben Stookey is AASHE's lead web application developer, and he works primarily on STARS. So the flow of the presentation will start with Julian talking about the process of developing 2.0 from the viewpoint of the STARS Steering Committee. After that, we'll hear from Chris about what's the same and what's different regarding the process for getting started with STARS, and also the details of the technical manual and the credits within. Next, we'll hear from Ben about, again, what is same and what's different about the technical aspects, primarily in the reporting tool. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Julian to get us started.
All right. Hello, everyone. As Jillian said, I'm going to start just by talking about how we got here before you hear about all the changes. This is just sort of a reminder of the process we've been through. Some of you have participated in a number of these steps, so it'll be familiar. But basically, we started work on STARS 2.0 in late 2011. And by January of 2012, we released our vision for STARS 2.0. We put it out through the AASHE blog, got some great comments on it, and eventually finalized, here's what we're hoping to do with STARS 2.0. And it set out a variety of goals. I think there's 10 or 12 of them. So you can find it on our website if you search STARS 2.0 vision, if you want to see the original vision that we had. But basically, the staff then worked with technical advisors. And we have technical advisors for every section of STARS. So there's a section on energy. There's 3 to 5 technical advisors on that topic. So the staff worked with technical advisors on each topic to develop changes that were consistent with this broad vision that the steering committee had adopted. And it did that throughout spring of 2012, and it came to the steering committee at the beginning of summer 2012. We reviewed that for a few months, made a few changes of our own, and eventually approved that draft to go out for public comment. Which is where probably many of you saw it for the first time when we released it for public comment in October of 2012. And it was available for general review for 6 weeks. And we had an online survey and a form where you could submit your comments. And we got a ton of great feedback. And then have spent the rest of this year really sort of processing that feedback and developing changes that, as a result of that feedback. And again, in consultation with technical advisors, the staff developed a draft that came to the steering committee in May, I believe we first started working on it, maybe even April. But we've been working on it for the last few months, and finally, last month we were able to approve it, and so that's the version that Chris will be talking about. I don't think it's perfect, but I think we've managed to address many of the issues, the major critiques that people made about STARS. I think we've taken some steps to address those. And I should say, so not everybody in the steering committee is going to agree with every single change that was made, but we were, ultimately we all agreed this was an improvement, and it was unanimous, the decision to approve STARS 2.0. So we're really excited about this next step, and we look forward to your feedback and continuing to make it better. And so just in the interest of accountability and transparency, I want to share who is on the steering committee. So next slide, please, Jillian. So here's the full list of us. So if you have questions, complaints, concerns, any of the above, here's who you can talk to get sort of the inside scoop on why a change was made or why a change wasn't made. And I can volunteer myself. My contact information will be at the end, but if there's something that you're really concerned that we did or didn't do, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to try to explain how that happened. And with that, I will pass it on to Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. So I thought before I get into all the changes is just say a little bit about what's going to stay the same under 2.0. So as Julian kind of alluded to, one of the goals the STARS steering committee set out was to balance the need for being comprehensive and to being technically rigorous with the need to really make sure that STARS is accessible and that it maintains some continuity from version to version. So those of you who are already STARS participants should really feel right at home with 2.0. And as you can see from this list, much of the process is going to stay pretty much the same. So whether that's engaging the campus to gather data, identifying responsible parties for credits, reporting information in the reporting tool, sharing data with other organizations, and submitting and correcting that data, that process will stay essentially the same. And I should also say the thresholds required to earn a STARS rating will stay the same as well. So what's changed? Well, the most noticeable change is actually in the structure and the organization of the system. So where previous versions of STARS were based on three main categories, education and research, operations, and planning, administration, and engagement, STARS 2.0 introduces a new engagement category and raises that number to 4 categories. So the engagement category was created really to bring together credits related to student engagement, employee engagement, and public engagement, both for organization's sake, but also really to sort of call out the importance of those activities in campus sustainability. So in addition to moving from 3 to 4 categories, the number and the organization of credits within those categories has been streamlined. As current participants will know, previous versions of STARS included both Tier 1 and Tier 2 credits. Well, STARS 2.0 consolidates both tiers into a single set of 70 credits, which is reduced from 139 total. So that's about a 50% decrease in just the sheer number of credits. So while the system's been streamlined, the number of credits have been reduced, the scope of STARS has actually been expanded. And there have been 11 brand new credits introduced, and I'll just go over these briefly here. So in academics, there are new credits related to using the campus as a living lab, to providing open access to peer-reviewed research. In the new engagement categories, new credits related to identifying and engaging community stakeholders. And there's a new credit for institutions with affiliated hospitals that recognizes those institutions that are engaging in networks to improve the sustainability performance of those hospitals. In operations, there are 5 new credits related to minimizing air pollution, protecting outdoor air quality, to minimizing the purchase of conventionally produced animal products, to having a biodiversity management strategy, to using life cycle cost analysis and total cost of ownership in purchasing decisions, and in using ecologically preferable methods of wastewater management. And finally, in planning administration, there are 2 new credits. A new governance credit recognizes institutions that engage their students, staff, and faculty in governance, and a workplace health and safety credit recognizes institutions that are protecting the health and safety of their employees. So in addition to the new credits, most of the existing credits have been refined to one extent or another. And the improvements were made based on all the sort of inputs and the mechanisms that Julie mentioned, whether it was technical advisor recommendations, participant feedback, or public comment. And we don't have time to go through all the changes, but some examples are there are a lot more definitions in STARS 2.0. A lot of clarifications have been made to credit criteria. There are new scoring examples and new credit examples in the technical manual. Some adjustments have been made to how credits are scored, and there's some additional guidance provided to institutions outside the US and Canada that are using STARS. There are 2 changes here that I just want to make particular note of, and they involve the curriculum and research credits and the use of baselines in STARS. So one thing we've heard pretty consistently from STARS participants is a desire for standardized definitions of sustainability in the curriculum and research, and STARS 2.0 provides that. In the technical manual, there are detailed definitions and guidance provided for identifying sustainability courses, courses that include sustainability, and also sustainability research. I should also mention that recognizing that creating new sustainability courses and incorporating sustainability content into existing courses are both valid approaches. Both of those types of courses are weighted equally for scoring in STARS 2.0, which is a departure from previous versions of STARS. Now the second sort of refinement I want to touch on is the use of baselines in STARS. So under previous versions, institutions were asked to compare their latest emissions and consumption data with data from 2005. We've gotten a lot of feedback about that over the past couple of years, and the consensus from the community seems to be that a more flexible approach is preferable. So STARS 2.0 allows institutions to use baseline years that they've adopted for internal use or for other reporting purposes, something like that, and it can be any year between 1990 and the present. So to sort of balance that flexibility in setting baselines, the STARS Steering Committee also agreed to introduce performance thresholds or benchmarks. And these have been introduced into the greenhouse gas emissions, the building energy consumption, and the waste minimization credits. So basically, each of those credits is now based on both 1, relative improvement from a baseline, and 2, absolute performance in relation to a common standard or benchmark. And the intent here is that both of those approaches have their strengths and weaknesses. So by including both, we can kind of build on the strengths of each one and hopefully more accurately reflect an institution's performance in each of those areas. And the third little piece of the baseline credit piece is that STARS 2.0 also introduces some new normalization factors to some of the credits and operations. So for example, greenhouse gas emissions credit addresses per capita greenhouse gas emissions and also emissions per square foot or meter of building space. The building energy consumption credit now normalizes energy consumption by conditioned floor area and climate. And the water use credit has 3 parts now and is normalized by population, building space, and the area of vegetated grounds. And again here, the intent is really to better account for diversity of institutions and their context and really provide a more comprehensive picture of where they stand and where their performance is at. So along with all this, the new structure, new credits, revised credits, the points have been reallocated for STARS 2.0 and the method of scoring has been simplified. So the same as previous versions of STARS, the focus in allocating points was on the impact of earning each credit, not on the difficulty. What's different this time around is that whereas under previous versions, the three main categories were weighted equally, so equal points were allocated to PAE, ER, and OP under STARS 1.2. For 2.0, the panel that allocated points, which was made up of steering committee members and AASHE staff, allocated points initially without regard to category, so just simply based on the impact of earning each credit. And you can see the results of that distribution in that slide. One thing I should point out is that in addition to the reallocation of points, the total number of points available is different. So under STARS 1.2 and previous versions, there were 300 total points in the system, 100 for each of the three categories. STARS 2.0 not only has 4 categories, but it only has 200 available points. So I just wanted to point that out, something to keep in mind if you're comparing point values or scores between the different versions. So as I mentioned, overall scoring has been simplified. Next slide, please, Jillian. So in previous versions, total scores were calculated based on the average of the scores in the 3 categories, right? They were equally weighted. Well, under STARS 2.0, without that weighting of the categories, the total score is just simply based on the percentage of total applicable points earned across all the categories. And the same as previous versions, any innovation points that are earned are added on to the total score. Okay, now I want to talk briefly about another development, and that's in terms of the STARS data accuracy policy. This policy has recently been updated. It's available on the STARS website if you want to take a closer look at it. And STARS has always had data accuracy mechanisms, whether that's assigning a responsible party to a credit, requiring a president's letter, or just simply posting the reports publicly. But with these new revisions, there are 3 new mechanisms added to the policy, and I'll go over those real quickly. The first is pre-publication review. So AASHE staff will review all STARS Platinum submissions for accuracy, and that will happen before a rating is awarded and before the report is publicly posted. And if there are any concerns identified, staff will get in touch with the STARS liaison at the institution and get them resolved. The second mechanism is post-publication review. So staff will review all STARS reports after a rating has been earned, again for accuracy. And at minimum, this means just making sure that each submission meets the criteria related to uploading a president's letter, the criteria related to any innovation credits that are claimed, and at least 1 additional credit will be reviewed at random. And I should also mention that AASHE staff also periodically do an audit of STARS data, just to identify outliers, potential mistakes, inconsistencies, things that might need correction. And then we follow up with the institutions to make those corrections if they're needed. The third new mechanism, if there is an inquiry into the accuracy of reported data, whether it's by staff or by a member of the public, and it goes unresolved, staff can elect to flag the data field in the STARS report just to indicate that there may be a potential error there. And of course, any flag that's put in place will be taken away just as soon as the error is resolved. And the last thing I want to touch on is something we're really excited about, and that's some changes to access to STARS. So as many of you know, in 2012, AASHE launched the Campus Sustainability Data Collector, which is a free tool for institutions to share data with organizations like Sierra Magazine and the Princeton Review. Now, based on feedback from those participants, with the launch of STARS 2.0, the data collector will be replaced by 2 levels of access to STARS. So there will be a basic level of access, like the data collector, that will be available at no cost and will allow participants to use the STARS reporting tool to share data with other organizations. In addition, institutions with basic access will also have the opportunity to share data with AASHE and be recognized as a STARS reporter. And of course, there will also still be a full level of access available with a STARS subscription fee. And that will give institutions the option to submit for a STARS rating, so the bronze, silver, gold, or platinum rating. And participants that subscribe for full access will also have other benefits like resources, automated scoring, data exports, benchmarking opportunities, and other features within the STARS reporting tool and the data displays. And finally, AASHE is also fully opening international access to STARS. So the STARS International Pilot, which launched in 2011 and closes at the end of this year, has involved more than 50 institutions from, I think, 16 different countries around the world, the Americas, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. So building on the success of the pilot, both levels of access to STARS will be open to any higher ed institution worldwide with the launch of STARS 2.0. So we're really excited about this. We think these changes to access will really simplify the process for everybody. And we also think it'll allow a lot more institutions to start reporting and sharing their campus sustainability data. And we'll be providing some more information about these new levels of access in the coming weeks as we move toward the launch of 2.0 registration and the AASHE conference. So now I'll pass it along to Ben Stookey to talk about changes to the STARS reporting tool.
Hey Ben, you might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
How about now? Okay. Sorry about that. All right, well, I'll continue. Sorry for the delay. So outside of these changes to STARS 2.0, the reporting tool has been sort of going under constant update. Outside of the context of 2.0, we're always trying to improve the reporting tool. But several features have been added just simply to improve submission under 2.0. So the first one here we've got in terms of reporting, we've tried to streamline the interface so that fields are not as long and cumbersome. If we put them in a tabular format, you can check boxes and columns or fill out values in columns, which should make things a little easier. We've also, to support this international effort, we've allowed multiple units of measurement. We've enhanced that. And then with migrations, when you're migrating to 2.0, we're going to make it easier for people to see where the data came from when they migrated from 1.0 to 2.0, or 1.2 to 2.0, and things like that, and even see the specific values that you've had in the previous reports. As the institutional boundary has changed, it's now considered our institutional characteristics, and that influences our overall, that it can influence scoring. It makes it easier to report on a global level for your institution. And then, and so just change just slightly in the interface, but it shouldn't seem too different from the existing system. And then finally, we've integrated this cool visual glossary of terms. So we've defined some of the terms that people are going to be using, and just given clear, and hopefully giving people clear understanding of where they came from and what they really mean, and hopefully that'll help with the reporting because things have been added in 2.0. I think that's it for me, so I'll pass it back on to Jillian. I'm sorry for the earlier muting.
Thanks, Ben. I just want to mention, thanks, Ben, and also thanks to Chris and Julian. I just want to mention for folks that are unaware, the technical manual for STARS 2.0 is now publicly available. If you go to the STARS website, stars.aashe.org, you'll see a box in the upper right-hand corner that says STARS 2.0 preview and a link that will take you to the technical manual and other pertinent documents. While we have shared the STARS technical manual publicly, registration for STARS 2.0 is not yet available. We're going to be working on updates to the STARS reporting tool as well as a facelift to the STARS website. We'll be doing all of that prior to the conference. And we're also anticipating that STARS 2.0 will be available for registration prior to the conference as well. I also want to point out that there are some details about enhancements to STARS, a lot of things that we've talked about today, in the 2013 annual review of STARS, which is also on the STARS website in the news and events section under 2013 publications. So with that, we do have some time for Q&A. So, I'm sorry, actually, I did want to mention one thing about the conference. The conference is going to be happening in Nashville, as I mentioned, coming up October 6th through 9. And we'll be doing a lot of education around STARS 2.0 and the STARS program in general while we're there. If you're interested in coming, you can go to the link at the top of the slide here, or the URL at the top of the slide, to learn more. Essentially, we'll be giving a STARS introductory workshop on Sunday morning, which is designed for folks that are new to STARS but want to learn the details of getting started with the program. Following that, on Sunday afternoon, will be our more advanced workshop for participants that would like to engage in a high-level discussion about 2.0 and continuous improvement. There'll be similar discussion as to this webinar, but a lot more detail. On Monday of the conference, we'll be having a session called STARS 101, which will be a basic overview of the program. It's a concurrent session. And then on Tuesday, also concurrent session, and I guess there's some potential for this to change to Monday, but we will also be having a town hall, which is an open forum to discuss STARS with staff as well as steering committees members in more of a roundtable format. So with that, we'll dive into questions, and we've got a few coming in here. Just as a reminder, please feel free to submit your questions in the questions pane at any time. This first one I'm happy to answer. The question is a STARS subscription fee still going to be required to query the STARS database? And yes, there will still be the same fee structure associated with registering for STARS. That's $900 for AASHE members and $1,400 for non-members. All the information about registration that's on the registration page now will be similar to what you'll see on the new website. And then Chris did allude to the full access and basic access to STARS that will be rolling out with 2.0. And there's more details about that in the 2013 annual review, I believe on page 11. So hopefully that will help you out. The next question is, if you are currently registered for STARS 1.0 but haven't submitted, can you change to STARS 2.0? And this has to do with migrating data. So Ben, I'm going to ask that you would answer this question.
Sure. Yeah. Any current submission data, whether you've submitted for a rating and there's data still in the reporting tool, or whether you've put data into the reporting tool but it hasn't necessarily been submitted for a rating, can be migrated into 2.0. And after that migration process, you'll actually be able to see what your previous values were, where they're migrated from, and it will say this came from your 1.0 submission. So yes, you don't have to have finished a report. 1.0 is significantly different from 2.0. There are several stages in between, so it may, depending, show the distance between the two. But yeah, you should easily be able to migrate from any previous version.
Great, thanks. And in addition to that, will private notes or snapshots be available for folks that want to move that information into 2.0?
That's a good question. Yeah, every aspect of a credit that existed previously, and I think most of them do. Chris might be able to shine a little more light on that, but many of them, the notes will move over. We may need to look into whether or not notes move from a credit that's been moved or renamed or combined. How we move notes from both, that's a good question. We'll definitely put that on the to-do list.
Thanks. Chris, this next one is for you. Does the baseline year need to be the same for all credits with baselines?
I didn't hear the end of the question, but I think it was, does the baseline year need to be the same for all credits?
With baselines, yes.
Yeah. No, it does not. Now, there would be some advantages to doing that, it seems like, because you could use the same, gross square footage data or weighted campus user data for all the credits across STARS. So it would probably decrease the burden of collecting and reporting data if you use the same baseline. But no, it's not required. Each credit is treated differently in that regard.
Great, thank you. I'll take this one. If you've already begun a new submission for 2014, are you required to submit a STARS 2.0? And I think Ben might have touched on this a little bit when he talked about migration. Any institution that registers for STARS is required by AASHE to submit a STARS report under the version that it registers under. So if you're registered right now under STARS 1.2, we ask that you submit your STARS report under that version. However, if a new version becomes available, say you're registered under 1.2 and then STARS 2.0 becomes available, you'll have the option to either move into the newest version, STARS 2.0, or complete your STARS report under the current version that you're registered under. So really, you will have that choice. And then as Ben discussed, we will have migration options for you if you decide you want to move into a new version of STARS. So here's another question for you, Ben. I think you touched on this a little bit, but will you automatically migrate the STARS 1.2 data now in the reporting tool to 2.0?
No, as you just said, we'll be able to you'll be able to continue your submission 1.2 if that's what you're using currently. But if you opt into 2.0, you simply inside the reporting tool there's a tab called migration, and in there you can do what's called a version migration and migrate from 1.2 to 2.0.
Great, thanks. After STARS 2.0 is launched, can an institution still submit for a rating with STARS 1.2? That's a really good question. And as I just mentioned, we do require that institutions submit under the version that is available once they register. We'll definitely give the public a lot of advance notice when the exact date will be that if you register for STARS, you're going to be registered under 2.0 versus 1.2. We do understand that a lot of folks are sort of waiting either for 2.0 to come out so they can register under the newest version, or they want to make sure that they're registering under 1.2 and they want to know sort of when the deadline is for that. Again, we don't have a specific launch date. We are anticipating it will be prior to the conference, which is October 6th through 9th. But we will definitely let folks know in advance. So again, if you do register once 2.0 becomes the most current version of STARS, that's the version we'll be requiring you to submit under. You won't be able to go backwards. However, if you do register under 1.2 and 2.0 comes out, you are available to move into that most updated version. Chris, this one's for you. Have innovation credits from past versions been included as best practices in 2.0?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So Monica Urbanski on staff did a pretty thorough analysis of innovations credits and went through and identified the subject areas and all that kind of thing. And it definitely did inform the process. So I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Well, for example, there's a wastewater management credit now, which is something where innovation had been claimed under previous versions of STARS, and now there's a STARS credit around that. And that wouldn't be the only reason that a credit was added, but it certainly did inform the process.
Thanks. Here's another one for you, Chris. Is there a crosswalk for revised or new credits to old credits?
Yes, actually on the page, on the STARS website, there's a landing page for STARS 2.0 information. Where the technical manual will be available, there's a detailed summary of changes, which goes through a lot of the information we've presented today, but in more detail. And it also, at the end of that, there's a table which lists all of the credits in STARS 1.2, what changes were made to them, if they were relocated, if they were moved into other credits, that sort of thing. So you can look up any credit in particular, and it will let you know what changes have been made and where that credit content might be if it has moved for 2.0.
Great, thanks. This next one I'm going to toss to you as well, Chris. How long do you anticipate STARS 2.0 to be around? Will 3 years be the average update period?
Yeah, that's a good that's a good question. Um, I'm trying to look. I can't remember actually. I think there can only be a major update every 3 years. Am I right about that, Julian?
I don't think it's set in stone, but just given that we have historically done a couple of sort of smaller changes, I think that's probably reasonable to think a 3-year time frame is a good goal for us. This one was around for a little bit more than that, but we would like to move to a faster schedule of being able to do pretty significant changes. Um, but I anticipate once we release this, we'll notice there's some smaller things that need to get taken care of, and we're going to want to do those first before we do the big ones. It'll depend to some extent on the reactions and the feedback we get on this version as to how long it lasts.
Great, thanks. Ben, this next question is for you. Can the new reporting tool be integrated with existing systems? For example, links to energy databases, batch uploads to credits, data into Excel?
Great question. Yes, we have an Excel export that will be going out. And additionally, we have a STARS API, which we launched at the conference last year, and is a way for people to integrate with STARS. We don't have any platforms specifically now that are integrating, but I'd be very interested. Whoever asked that question, please email me, ben@aashe.org, and let me know which systems you're interested in integrating with, and maybe we can figure out how to do that. But yeah, we do have Excel exports of the data, so you could draw that data into other systems, as well as the API, which is a tool for extracting data from the tool and writing data to the tool.
Great, thanks. Chris, this next one is for you. Do you expect much variation to a school's score or rankings simply by migrating to 2.0 from 1.2?
Yeah, that's another great question. I don't expect that much to change. The weighting, as I sort of mentioned before, the relative weighting of the credits hasn't changed that much within STARS. I mean, the criteria for some credits has changed quite a bit, and there's some additional reporting requirements for some credits, so that could impact a score. There really wasn't a good way to find that out, honestly, because a lot of it's going to depend on how institutions are reporting, which credits are still applicable to them. But in the overall scheme of things, I think with the weighting of the credits being similar, it's not going to have a huge impact one way or another. I wouldn't expect there to be.
Great, thanks. This next one is for you as well. Will universities that award bachelor, graduate, and doctorate degrees be able to reflect this in the institutional characteristics?
That offer all three types of degrees, I guess I'm assuming. As it is right now, the institutional characteristics is based on basic institution type, which doesn't go into a huge amount of detail about that. It's basically the upper level degree offered. So if your institution offers a doctorate degree, you'd be classified under doctorate institutions. But I'd be interested in hearing more about that. If you want to get in touch with me, and my contact information is on the STARS website.
Thanks. Chris, this one's for you too. Is STARS 2.0, is the green building section, STARS 2.0, is it more or less focused on LEED ratings?
Yeah, so one of the goals of 2.0 was to make it more applicable to institutions outside the U.S. and Canada. And so the criteria for those buildings credits have changed a little bit, been broadened a little bit. You know, all LEED certified space still counts for the credits. Also space that's certified under another green building rating system that's used by a World Green Building Council would count for that. So for example, if an institution was in the UK, BREEAM would count. Or if an institution is in Germany, the DGMB system would count. Things like that. In addition to that, any space that's certified under any green building system will count as basic certified space for the credit, which is again another change from 1.2. So I'd encourage you to take a look at the technical manual and look at it in a little more detail. There's some, in the technical manual, there's some pretty detailed scoring tables and credit examples too that would help explain a little better than I can.
Thanks, I appreciate your attempt at that one. Ben, this next one is for you. What will be the best way to capture our current provisional STARS rating data before the reporting tool changes to reflect the new 2.0 credit system so that we don't lose our data that is currently in the reporting tool system?
So as I mentioned before, we do have the PDF export and the Excel export. So those are your two primary options to hang on to that data. And once you do migrate, you will be able to see the data migration does take fields that were previously in STARS 1.2 and moves them, the data, into your submission for 2.0. So most of that data will be retained, and as we mentioned earlier, we do have a crosswalk to see which fields do migrate and go across. I'm not sure off the top of my head if some of them disappear altogether. I'd be surprised if that's the case, but it may be. So hanging onto the Excel spreadsheet is a good idea, and the PDF even for reference, but your data should not be lost. It should be moved into 1.2 or into 2.0 rather when you perform the migration, and it'll be retained within the reporting tool for you.
Thanks. This next one is for you, Ben, as well. If you are resubmitting, updating your data, will that also migrate over so you can edit rather than fill in from blank for new submissions? So will there be a way to populate fields?
Jillian, can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no problem. So if you're resubmitting, you're updating your data in the reporting tool, will you be able to populate fields from existing data in the credits in the My Submission section of the reporting tool, or are you going to have to start from blank with entering in information to all the fields?
Gotcha. Start from blank, start from scratch. No,
Yeah.
You won't have to. You can migrate, actually, you can do a data migration from any previous published submission or the existing content in the reporting tool. So if you, for example, had submitted under the data collector and didn't have your data in the reporting tool anymore, but you had a previous report, you could pull in the data from that previous report, and maybe from snapshots. I'm not 100% sure on that at this point, but you will be able to pull in data from any previously published report for sure.
Thanks. I do want to mention in the institutional characteristics section of the reporting tool, we are encouraging people to fill that section out first because there are some pieces of information we're asking for in there that are also reporting fields in some of the credits. And if you fill out the institutional characteristics section first, some of those fields will be automatically populated in the reporting tool where that same information is asked for as well. Chris, this next question is for you. Does STARS 1.2 does not allow to opt out of credits that colleges may not have direct control over, such as investment portfolios of public institutions, such as community colleges, which are controlled by the state. Is this different at all for 2.0?
Well, it varies credit by credit. I mean, there's still the applicability rule. You know, institutions without certain characteristics are allowed to opt out of certain credits. And some of those criteria have changed. I'd say most of them have not. I think the investment applicability criteria for the investment credits has not changed. So they still would apply to any institution with an endowment of, I think it's $1 million US dollars or larger.
Thanks. Chris, this one is for you as well. And Julian, you might want to jump in here too, but Chris, let's have you go first. It's good to see the data accuracy policy. Has any assessment been done of which credits most need an audit or review instead of just picking one at random? In my experience, the course and research inventories and the investment credits in particular often include very questionable credit claims.
Yeah, that's a great question. My colleague Monica Urbanski does the data reviews and most of the analysis of the reviews, so she would actually be a better person to answer this. I will say, as far as the course and the research inventories, because we are now providing pretty detailed definitions of what is expected as far as reporting sustainability courses and courses with sustainability content and sustainability research, we would expect a lot more comparability between submissions on those. And we also provide a pretty detailed example of what a course inventory should look like in the new academic courses credit. And all those efforts were really made to help make sure, like I said, the submissions are comparable and the data is accurate, and we're all sort of looking at similar types of things. So hopefully that will help. As far as prioritizing the submissions that are reviewed, it's still random. At the same time, we do periodic review of all submissions, which catches things like outliers, which catches things where the data looks like it's a mistake, or perhaps there was a misreading of the criteria or something like that. And when those things do pop up, and that can be any credit, that's when staff can contact the STARS liaison and check it out and see if it is maybe a mistake or an error or misinterpretation or something like that, and give the institution an opportunity to correct it.
Thanks.
So I hope that answers it well enough anyway.
Yeah, and if the individual that asked that question would like more information, you can always send us an email to stars@aashe.org or resources@aashe.org as well. Chris, can you talk a little bit more about international access? In particular, will the technical manual be available in different language versions?
Yeah, again, that's a good question. Right now, we only have an English language version. We honestly just don't have the capacity to do translations. I think there would be interest in hearing about possibilities of doing that, or maybe partnerships where we could do something like that. But for the time being, unfortunately, it's just English language version of the technical manual.
Thanks. Ben, this next one is for you. In regards to data sharing, do you know if the other organizations, Princeton Review and Sierra Magazine, will utilize STARS 1.2 or STARS 2.0 data?
Good question. I believe they're going to be using 2.0, though I imagine, depending on timing, they may want to use 1.2. So I probably don't have a good answer for that, and I think that's something we'll need to either take up with them or sort of discuss in the future. But eventually it will be 2.0, and that's sort of the way STARS has been going, and they've had influence in the any changes that have gone into 2.0. So I'm guessing it'll be 2.0.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I just got a note here from Megan Faisonizer, the Director of Programs, saying that they will be using 2.0 as well. Chris, Yep, thanks, Megan. Chris, do you consider 2.0 to be more rigorous than 1.2? I feel like you've talked about this a little bit, but maybe you want to share more.
Yeah, I would say definitely so. I think that's one of the best things about it, actually. I think it's much more rigorous in the quality of the data it requires. I think their credit criteria are much clearer. I mean, we've probably tripled the number of definitions we provide, which is really going to help, get everybody on the same page. And I think we've been able to do that without really increasing the burden of data collection, which I think is really kind of the best thing about 2.0, actually.
Thanks. Chris, will there be a tracking tool provided for folks to capture or store data offline or outside of the reporting tool?
We have in the past provided an Excel spreadsheet for that purpose, so I could see that's something that we could provide in the resources section, but I think the expectation really is that the reporting tool becomes that, because it really is, I think the interface is going to be better this go around, and I think that would be, especially now that we actually have Excel exports from the reporting tool, right? So actually I think the reporting tool would be the best interface for that. But having said that, I think it's a good idea. If folks are interested, we could prepare an Excel spreadsheet as we have in the past.
Thanks. There was a question about if we're already rated by STARS, could we complete STARS 2.0 before we are due to submit again? And essentially, it really just depends on how long your rating is valid. STARS ratings are valid for 3 years. So if you decide that after your rating expires, or even before, if you want to register under 2.0 once it becomes available, you're welcome to do that and then submit under that version. So I hope that answers that individual's question. The next question here, Ben, I'll pass this one to you. Is there a way to automatically calculate points earned?
Yes, the reporting tool does that for you. Anytime as long as you're using the, Chris had talked about the basic and the STARS subscription. As long as you're a STARS participant, a paying user of STARS, you will have access to a variety of features, including the Excel export and automated scoring. So while you're reporting, you can actively see anytime you make a change, how that affects your overall score, how that affects the score for a particular credit, category, subcategory, all that. And that's all calculated for you within the tool.
Thanks. With that, Chris, will you talk more about the STARS basic level and whether or not it will be replacing the campus sustainability data collector?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that is the gist of it. That's essentially what's happening. So what it'll be, if you are a user, if you have basic access to the tool, it will be essentially the same as the data collector in that you will still be using STARS reporting tool, be reporting on STARS credits. You'll be able to share that information with any kind of third-party organization. What's added now is you'll also have the option to share that data with AASHE and achieve STARS reporter status. Okay. And likewise, if anytime you're in the tool and you have basic access, you'll have the opportunity to purchase a STARS subscription and go to full access, right? And likewise, if your subscription were to lapse for whatever reason, you would still retain basic access to the tool until you resubscribed. So yeah, essentially what's happening is we're simplifying the process. I think in the past we had sort of kept the data collector was a separate tool from the STARS reporting tool, and what this does is really consolidate that and simplify it. We heard from participants that the other way it was causing a little bit of confusion, and this way it just seems to make much more sense and be much more seamless experience for everybody.
Great, thanks. Chris, this next one's for you as well. Are the options for public reporting still valid? For example, if an institution chooses to be rated, all of their data is available publicly. If an institution chooses reporter status, their data is not public, but available to other STARS institutions. And I just want to clarify there that data is public for STARS reporters, however, scoring is not. And will that be the same with 2.0?
Yeah, that will stay exactly the same. So any data that's submitted to AASHE that's not like a private note or something like that will be published. Whether that's a report that gets a STARS rating or whether the institution is submitting that data as a STARS reporter, all that information is public. That's part of participating in STARS. And really, that's the biggest part of earning your level of recognition, whatever it is. So that will stay exactly the same, whichever level of access your institution happens to have.
Great, thanks. Let's see here. After STARS 2.0 is released, what will be the best mechanism to give feedback on the new version? Chris, do you want to approach this one?
Yeah, I think really the best mechanism is to email us at stars@aashe.org. That's sort of the most convenient way, I think, to get in touch with us. And from there, we'll start compiling the feedback, of course, as we did in past versions. Anything we get feeds into the process, right? And the first step of that is staff taking a look at it and sharing it with the technical advisors and starting those discussions. So we welcome anything and everything.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see. Can you say more about how standard thresholds were determined? Chris, I think this one's probably for you as well.
Yeah, I can. Well, you guys got some good questions. So basically, we went through a pretty extensive process in discussing whether to institute the thresholds, how to do the thresholds, how to calculate the thresholds, and all of that sort of thing. The thresholds are based, for the most part, on existing STARS data. So it would be data from under 1.0, 1.1, 1.2. There are some details in the technical manual about how each of those thresholds was calculated. So for example, greenhouse gas emissions, the threshold was calculated at the first decile of emissions for institutions reporting under STARS and that participated in the American College University President's Climate Commitment. So wherever we could, we looked at STARS data. We either compared it to other available data sets, or with the ACU PCC data, we were able to sort of merge the data sets and take a look and set the thresholds that way. So it's based primarily on STARS data, but it also references other data sets where they were available. And again, that information is included in standards and terms under minimum performance threshold in the technical manual.
Thanks. Chris, this next one is for you as well. Hey guys, STARS 2.0 looks great. Could you describe the approach taken to determine relative weighting between credits and credit categories?
Yeah, so it was actually a similar approach to what was taken in previous versions. What happened with 2.0 is the steering committee took a little bit of a step back and convened a task force of steering committee members to take a look at the organization and weighting of STARS. And they spent, I don't know, a good month and a half or longer discussing different approaches and came back to the steering committee with a proposal. And the proposal was to go to this 4-category system and to weight the credits as credits without regard to sort of equally weighted categories. So in other words, to sort of do away with the category level weighting and just weight credits. The steering committee ultimately approved that approach. And so then as the technical manual was finalized and the credits were all in place, a panel was formed of steering committee members and AASHE staff that went to each credit independently. Each person went independently to each credit and rated the impact of achieving that credit based on a number of considerations. So basically it was like the degree of positive outcomes of achieving that credit, whether it was educational, social, environmental, or financial. So each panel member weighted the credits. The panel came back together. Staff compiled all the results of that process, did calculations, means, standard deviation, all that sort of thing. We identified places where there was a lot of agreement on the panel. We identified places where there wasn't consensus. Maybe there was quite a wide range of scores. We came back together and discussed those points, and eventually came to consensus on a weighting for STARS. That panel then delivered the results of that process to the full steering committee, which had some additional discussions, I think made a couple of adjustments, and then finalized the point allocation and weighting of STARS 2.0.
Great, thanks. And with that, we're at the top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you again to our presenters. Just want to reiterate that a video of this webinar, as well as the PowerPoint presentation, will be available in the events section under webinars of the AASHE website. Also want to remind folks, if you want to check out the 2.0 technical manual and associated documents, just go to stars.aashe.org and check out the link for the STARS 2.0 preview in the top right-hand corner. We do offer these webinars monthly through AASHE on various topics, so we hope that you'll continue to tune in. And again, if you have questions or feel your question wasn't addressed, please send an email to resources@aashe.org or stars@aashe.org. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We look forward to sharing more information about 2.0 as it continues to develop, as well as a lot more additional detail at the AASHE 2013 conference. So have a great day, and we hope to hear from you soon.